Actually, she's back. Okay, no. Yeah.
Sure. I'm fine, sir. There's Monday.
I don't know.
No, I just woke up from I woke up from your Kapini's house in Chan. From who?
Disaster areas.
Got my account, Musa.
Thank you very much.
We are about to commence with our media briefing, and thank you for coming. And Cape Town, good morning.
Good morning, Sis Pumla.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, we have a team of ministers that will be giving a briefing. I'll just quickly give the names of the ministers. On my extreme right is Minister Nkwinti, and followed by Minister Mkonyane, followed by Minister Pravin, and followed by Minister Molewa, and Minister Gordon, sorry. It's Sorry, Minister Gordon, and Minister Mlewa, and Minister Zokwane. And it's over to you, Minister. Oh, sorry, Minister Gordon. We also have a ministers, mayors, Mayor Tshwane, Mayor Ramohopa, and Mayor Tau from Gauteng, and Mayor Gungubele from Ekurhuleni. And I hope I've covered over. Thank you. Sorry, mayors. It's over to you, Minister Gordon.
Well, good morning to all of you, and welcome to this press briefing. This is the ministerial team that was put together in order to. This was the ministerial team put together in order to deal with the crisis of drought and water scarcity and supply, so that we get a whole-of-government approach in dealing with this matter. Over the past few weeks, we've been working at both officials level and ministerial level, both at a national department level, but also very closely, in particular, with rural municipalities, in some instances provinces, and in other instances also in the past few days our metropolitan cities, and that's why we're very privileged to have mayors from our metropolitan cities here as well. What we want to do today is to bring you on board in terms of the facts as we know them. There's been lots of assumptions made and things said, but we, I believe, have a set of facts which is important both for yourselves and for South Africa to know, so that we can place what is a challenge, in some parts a crisis, in other parts a set of problems, but ones that are not going to disappear tomorrow morning. And we need to prepare ourselves to deal both with the immediate term issues that are arising, but also the medium and longer term issues that are arising. So that's the second point. The third point is that if we work as one team, i.e. Team South Africa, I believe that in many instances we can mitigate the challenges arising from particularly water supply issues in many of our urban environments, but perhaps in some of our rural environments as well. And so managing the demand side, managing the way we use water, the way we understand water, the way in which we get into our daily consciousness that water is not an abundant commodity that's available in South Africa. And what my colleagues will be sharing with you are insights, facts, and perspectives which I hope you will be able to communicate without too much of melodrama to the South African public, so that they actually have the benefit of the facts, and of course then your interpretation and analysis of the facts as well. And we rely on you particularly to be able to do that. We know that there are certain improvements that we also need to make, and I'll come back to this point, but we've got a commitment from certainly our metro colleagues and those agencies that deal directly with water supply in some of our urban areas, that the public needs to be better informed, that the public requires a schedule if there are going to be water interruptions at any point in time, that there needs to be significantly higher levels of empathy shown for those who find themselves in difficulties. I'm convinced after some of the meetings I've had yesterday with representatives of the metros, including the mayors, that they have a good sense of what their responsibilities are. They've created a good platform to respond to public needs and demands. They've been very careful to identify key institutions like hospitals, old age homes, and others where water supply should not be interrupted, and if it is, that there's a substitute that is in place as well. What also matters, and my colleagues will share this with you in different ways, is numbers, because numbers give us a sense for proportionality. In other words, you can't say I'm going to have a total bodily collapse if all that you have is a little pain in your little toe, unless that's gangrenous. I'm not sure how many of you know medicine and the effects of diabetes. but I'm being an old-style pharmacist, you see, that I'll come up with those sorts of examples. So you got the point. If your toe is paining, you're not in any catastrophic state. So what's the proportions that we are talking about as we stand this morning? In Johannesburg, you have 1.4 million households. Today, as we stand, 8,000 households have had water interruptions. That's 0.6%. Now, that does not mean that these people are not going through hardships and that they don't need their daily needs attended to, but proportion is important. Over the last week or so, some 50,000 households, that's 3.6% of the households in Johannesburg, have been impacted by one or other kind of water interruption. If we take Ekurhuleni, 4,600 households in the municipality, and to date some 5,900, that's 1.3% from the calculation that's been given to me, that's been impacted in any way. So over the next weeks, what we will do is get more and more of this data for you so that we can share that data both with yourselves so that you have some sense of proportion of what we're dealing with. And my colleagues will also share with you data that's relevant in their departments as well. There's supposed to be a slideshow for me, but I'm not sure. Let's skip that for now. But the point I want to make from the COCTA perspective is firstly that there's been a narrative, for example, in some of the parliamentary debates that we've only woken up now. That's not true. Minister Molewa will explain this El Nino effect. She'll explain to you how climate change is going to impact upon South Africa and is impacting on South Africa. And since 2013, the South African government has been very involved, particularly through the National Disaster Management Center, in bringing about drought relief in one form or another to many provinces. We can give you a list of provinces that have declared emergencies, and here again, many of the parliamentarians got it wrong the other day in the debate in Parliament. We do have 5 provinces that have declared emergencies, which entitles them to do certain things, to receive certain funds, to spend certain funds in a particular way, in a coordinated fashion with national departments as well. So the other key message, I imagine, as I said at the beginning, is that whilst we have certain short-term issues to deal with, let's all countrywide get an understanding of what's the broader set of issues. For example, we are the 30th most dry country in the world. So let's say there's 200 registered countries in the UN system, we're number 30 in terms of the dryness of our country. It's a point that both my colleagues on either side have been making, Minister Molewa and Mr. Mokonyane, for some time, that water scarcity is a serious issue in South Africa, which means that our daily habits and the way we consume, the technology that we make available to ourselves, our ability to innovate around technology, which will make use of less water and make use of other types of water, and you'll hear that from Minister Mokonyane, is going to be as crucial as not washing your car too much or not using your gardening hosepipe too much. As you heard from our Joburg colleagues, they buy 40% of the water that Rand Water supplies to all of the metros around them. And 46% of that 40% that's bought by Johannesburg is used for gardening purposes. Right? Now, it's possible to manage gardening in a way in which that 46% can drop. If we drop that demand, some of the supply issues that we are facing in Johannesburg will disappear tomorrow. So our ability to persuade our public to do things differently is going to be quite crucial in terms of working as a South African team to cope with some of our challenges. So let me in the first instance ask Minister Molewa to explain to you the climate issues, the weather issues, and what her department and their entities are actually saying to South Africa about what we are experiencing now. And there's no doubt we have a spectacular heat wave now that has disrupted all sorts of normality. And we need to understand what the kind of disruption that this actually introduces. She'll be followed by Minister Mokonyane, who will give you a broader picture of where do we get our water, which dams are full, where are there rainfall problems, what does that do to which particular dam, for example, Hazelmere Dam in KZN, and what are the supply and demand issues that her department is actually looking at. Ministers Zokwana and Nkwinti will explain to us what's going on in the farming areas, commercial farming, communal farming, commercial livestock, communal livestock, and how their two departments are collaborating for us to help the farming sector to cope with some of the challenges that they have. We're looking for numbers at the moment. Mr. Zokwana and Nkwinti might have some of them, again to understand proportionality. Which parts of agriculture are actually affected, which parts are not. But it's very important to emphasize that government departments have been in touch with the necessary organizations in order to ensure that we pull them together into our one-team approach as well. So, in the first instance, may I hand over to Minister Molewa.
Thank you very much, Chair. We are very happy to be part of this presentation to South Africans. Just first of all to indicate, am I audible? Yeah. Okay. I can hear, I don't hear. Okay, thank you. First of all, just to start by indicating that we are doing some work, and we have been doing some work in terms of ensuring that as a country we can be able to plan accordingly. That's a very first point that I thought we should actually inform the public about. Within the space of South African Weather Services, there are predictions that are done on a continuous basis, and the predictions are firstly on a short-term basis, what we are able to tell you every day about the weather services, the weather patterns daily, but also we're projecting long-term over a period of 6 months or so. Now, we are having a situation which is a phenomenon called El Nino. Many of us may be familiar with that. And that El Nino is a result of the heating of a Pacific Ocean. And that heating then induces above normal dry conditions in some of the world and above normal wet conditions in other parts. For instance, what you may see if the slides are on there, are they on? It's the first one. Yeah. Okay. Just go to the first. The picture. Yeah. The picture. Yeah, this is the one. Yeah. Okay.
You carry on talking.
Okay, but let me carry on talking. The slide that you will see as it comes up, it shows that this phenomena actually induces above normal dry conditions, as I said, in some parts of the world. The Southern African and Australian parts, as at the moment, is the one that actually shows that we are in this El Nino process. It is also likely to last for the summer season. Now, you know the summer season may end at about March, April, thereabout next year. And this slide that you're about to see also shows that there is above normal temperature in the Pacific Ocean with the global impacts. It's not only us who are being impacted upon, as you show on the slide. Then slide 2, if you can move then, it shows the high probability of above 50% of above normal temperatures in the Southern Africa between December 2015 and February 2016. That's where you are having above normal temperatures. That's what we expect. The next slide shows the above and below normal rainfall patterns. And that shows that it's got the low probability, lower than 33% of above normal rainfall on the left-hand side of that slide. And on the right-hand side, it shows a high probability of higher than 50% of below normal rainfall. Now let's go to the next one, because with all these in place and these phenomenon taking place, we've got to say as government, because we know already that this cycle now comes after almost every 5 years, 3 to 5 years now, no longer 7 years, because of the climate change impacts and the effects of climate change. Because we do expect it, we do have to actually continue to plan. Now, this is an illustration that we've been planning. First of all, we do say and inform you that government's responses take many forms, and that those many forms including setting a policy framework, which we have done. In this case, we have the National Response, Climate Response Policy, that's solid in place, which was actually launched way back in during COP17, back then, because we've got to be ready. And then we also look at issues of research. We continue to research, and the medium to long-term climate impacts and adaptation response options that we should embark on. And that work have been done on a continuous basis. And then, of course, having said so, we then look at how we institutionalize ourselves to ensure that the actions that we implement are making an impact. And then there's institutional and operation arrangements, both horizontally and vertically, to address all these plans of ours. Horizontally, we mean the sectors, the various sectors that have to work together, and vertically is the spheres of government, national, provincial, and local. And then, of course, there's international response that relates to this work, because it's not only South Africa that has to act here, and the actions that we're taking has got to be worldwide. So there has been that work that is continuously being done, which we'll inform you about in a few minutes about what it is really in detail all about. Then the next issue is about the long-term adaptation scenario. That's a piece of work that we've been doing to ensure that we then adapt in a long-term manner. And the process entailed assessing climate scenarios, impact scenarios, and adaptation options that are available for key sectors like agriculture, like water, and so forth. And then, of course, we move to the other work that has been done. We do note there that South Africa's vulnerability to climate change and impacts are expected and would have been expected on water, on agriculture, on human health, on disaster risk management, also on biodiversity and our ecosystems, as well as on the ocean's coast. Now, the key issue here is that climate change is an environmental developmental issue, and also much so as a socio-economic challenge, and also presents opportunities at the same time. So we don't just look at this as a problem, but just also as providing opportunities. Can go to the next slide. We are really saying there that South Africa's strategy is therefore to strengthen planning and implementation process in order for us to anticipate and reduce the risks to climate variability and change, and also to enhance our ability to bounce back from the negative impacts of climate variability. Chair, I'll keep on emphasizing that this is because we know that we have to do this work. We are continuously planning. It's not something that hits us as we are sleeping, as other people may be perceiving. So this work is continuously being done. So slide 8 shows that there are various strategic and policy considerations, and they are there on that slide. I'm not going to get into that detail, but also just to show the adaptation plans that have been completed to date that are under implementation by a number of national departments and provinces that are detailed there. The Department of Environmental Affairs is just coordinating, by the way. We've got to get coordination and therefore implementation by other people. For instance, we know that if we are not doing anything about the alien and invasive species that are there in our country, these are the plant species that get into South Africa. They don't belong here, and they actually drink and sip lots of water, sometimes even have potential to run rivers dry. So we deal with those, and we are continuously, you know, of a famous Working for Water program. The Working on Fire program that actually is implemented to manage the increase in the felt forest fires that are there as well. If we don't do that, then we will not have grazing on land. And also the Working for Wetland, conserving the ecological services of wetland is one of those, because we know wetlands are producers of our water and purified water. And then the Working for Ecosystems, conserving the ecological services and the catchment. So that means the Nomvula Mkonyane's people, also when they have to actually deal with that water of distributing, they do find that the ecosystems are in place. So that's the work that's been done in that regard. Now, the key message here really is that we are saying South Africa must adapt to a climate change, a changing climate. And we need to reduce our water use per person, which is a message that's continuously being informed, that you are informed about. And then, of course, we say we must act now, because we are currently experiencing a drought in the challenge of El Nino, and we must and indeed act in a long-term manner as we have our plans in place. Things that everyone can do are very, very easy. Flush your toilet, low flow of watershed, do those things, waterize gardens, and use grey water where it's necessary. And the control of invasive and alien species in our catchments and landscapes are very, very essential. We will continue to focus on the issues of ensuring that we get early warning systems in place, improving the understanding of the nexus between water, food, and so forth, maintaining the ecological infrastructure and all those things. As I conclude, Chair, I want to just indicate to you that there has been, in this work that we've been doing, extensive research work that have been done in development programs that are right now, as we speak, in place in areas and situations here in South Africa that are water stressed and so forth. For example, the use of biotechnology and plant breeding techniques that are intended to develop drought-tolerant varieties of important food crops is already in place. So we are doing this work together with agriculture. That has been researched. We know that the biotechnology and plant breeding techniques that are now being implemented needs to be there. We also have other means, like for instance, your GMO Executive Council, that includes the departments that are around this table here, and health, of course, which is not here, which deals with very important issues. And recently, that council has approved the drought-tolerant varieties of maize for production, the water-stress tolerance varieties, short-term season varieties for fast-growing crops, and long-term season varieties for slow-growing crops. And South Africa was selected as a region over and above the work that we do in the country to pilot project on water-efficient maize Africa, since South Africa is advanced regulatory system. We've got a very advanced regulatory system than other countries. And we do this work on behalf of Kenya, Uganda, Tanzania, Mozambique, and so forth. We work through institutions like ARC, SANBI, Water Research Commission, and private sector as well, and Monsanto. Now, the new varieties of maize and other crops aimed at increasing yield are under drought and very serious conditions of under pressure. We also need to ensure that we consistently monitor and move more effectively towards ways of harvesting water and ecological system. We also need encouraging planting of indigenous plant that are adapted, and those are the strategies, what the strategies are saying. Linked to the United Nations desertification, Convention on Desertification, there's work also that we're doing there, a coordinating body that is existing to address land degradation aspects, including the drought that allows technical officials to coordinate sustainably land management issues. As I speak right now, we have a pilot that we are running in the Eastern Cape of that nature where we're dealing with land degradation. That's caused by the way, these effects where they are applicable. So the interventions are many. I just thought that we should list those few just to illustrate also that there's work ongoing, and we will continue to do that work on an ongoing basis. As El Nino gets to maybe just moving us into the summer season, we should be ready, and we are going to have to be ready in all aspects, and that's what we believe we are doing in our government in order for us as South Africa to really be ready and move our work forward. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. We must find more opportunities to brief you on all of the technical things that are happening so that you are in a position to place your reporting in some kind of context, both at a global level and in terms of the work being done in South Africa, and work largely that is happening within government, where as political parties move into election mode, and let's be very frank with you about that, that as political parties are moving towards the elections, they believe that you must now decry everything we do and portray to the South African public that we have no plan, no idea, no activity going on, and the contrary is what we're going to be able to demonstrate both at this press conference but in concrete actions on the ground as well. Let me invite Minister Mokonyane.
Thank you very much, Minister Pravin Gordhan, colleagues, executive mayors, fellow South Africans, a very good morning. This is again, I think, the third platform since the last time we had a media briefing at Rand Water to inform South Africans on the water situation. And what we want to start with is to share with fellow South Africans on the difference between water scarcity and drought. That firstly, with regard to drought, drought is understood to be a prolonged period of abnormal low rainfall that usually takes over more than one season, and therefore leading to water shortages. And I think what Minister Molewa had indicated about the summer season, that is what is then perceived to be, is said to be drought. It should be noted that as a country, South Africa, we are an arid country, one of the 30th driest countries in the world that experiences drought conditions on a cyclical basis, on an average every 10 years, as it has also been presented through the maps that were shown earlier on. And it is for this reason that drought conditions are assessed annually at the start of the hydrological calendar. The calendar is the start of the rainy season, and in the case of South Africa, the start of the hydrological calendar is October annually. Water scarcity, on the other hand, is a shortage of water, and it occurs when the demand for water outweighs the supply of water. And that is what this province, Gauteng, is experiencing. Water scarcity due to persistent high temperatures that lead to an increase in demand for water, coupled with a high evaporation rate from water in our reservoirs, and this causes stress on the supply systems and ultimately a system breakdown, as has been experienced over the past few weeks. On water security, let me begin by sharing a few important points and figures to enrich our engagement and provide an easy understanding of our state of water security currently, so that then whoever wants to interacts on an informed basis. Firstly, as we stated when we addressed the media 11 days ago, South Africa is naturally water strained. And we are regarded, as I've earlier said, the 30th driest country in the world, and with an annual average rainfall of 464 millimeters as compared to a global average of 860 millimeters. Secondly, I also wish to reaffirm that our regional water supply dams and schemes remain water secure and are sitting with a positive water balance. There is a slide that we can show, with the national average dam level currently sitting at 64.3%, compared with our storage last year at the same time, where we were at 74.6%. So generally there is a downward trend, which is indicative of a hydrological and meteorological drought. The bulk of the economic nodes and national growth points are served by such schemes, totaling 238 schemes nationally. Thirdly, currently KwaZulu-Natal is sitting at 57%. There are, however, 4 dams which are at critical levels and which are supplying very strategic parts of KwaZulu-Natal, which are the Hazelmere Dam, the Drought Dam, the Hluhluwe Dam, and the Klepfontein Dam, where mandatory restrictions are in place. The current abnormal heat wave has increased evaporation rates significantly, and this is one of the reasons for the fall off in capacity from 66% to 64%. In order to minimize the evaporation losses from the Vaal River system, we retain storage in the Sterfontein Dam for as long as possible. The dam, as we speak, the Sterfontein Dam, is currently at 96% full. I also want to pause here and thank the provincial government of KwaZulu-Natal, all the mayors, the local authorities in KwaZulu-Natal, and communities, including business, who have also demonstrated the importance of partnership under such conditions, because that has also demonstrated the ability of speaking in one voice, promoting adaptability, and most importantly, making sure that there is massive behavioral change. The fourth area, as already stated, 5 provinces in our country have since been declared drought-related disasters. These are the provinces of the Northwest, KwaZulu-Natal, Free State, and most recently, Limpopo and Mpumalanga provinces. As things stand, the drought currently affects just 173 of the 1,628 water supply schemes nationally. The drought currently affects 173 of the 1,628 water supply schemes nationally, serving approximately 2.7 million households, or 18% of the total national population. Notwithstanding this, we also take note that we still also have a number of the unserved in our country. The fifth point I wish to state is that whilst there have been some disruptions in supply in the Gauteng province, these are not as a result of drought, but a consequence of increased demand on the system due to a heat wave that has affected the province in the last 2 weeks. Currently, the Vaal Dam, which is the main source of water supply for Gauteng, contains a positive water level balance of 84%. We can safely say we foresee no major water shortages in Gauteng in the medium to long term. However, we must encourage residents of Gauteng to use water sparingly, responsibly, so as to allow us to maintain high water levels in our reservoirs that are managed by municipalities and to achieve the required pressure to pump water to high-lying areas of Gauteng. Also, together with our municipalities, we will have to improve our response where there are complaints or reports of water leakages or burst pipes, so that we can save every drop in the province. Together with the metropolitan municipalities, Rand Water is coordinating the operations on a daily basis, and jointly they are currently finalizing a recovery plan to replenish the affected reservoirs and water towers. We urge our communities to cooperate And we will be working together with our ward councillors and all other public representatives to communicate one message of using water wisely, saving water, recycling water, and most importantly, adapting to the realities of climate change. On the drought interventions, to date, we have intervened in drought mitigation measures in support of provinces, specifically KwaZulu-Natal, and we now are busy implementing in the Free State and the Northwest, where some of the worst drought conditions have been experienced. In this regard, the department has invested 352.6 million rands initially, and an additional 96.6 million has been set aside to intensify efforts to mitigate the effects of drought. The resources as allocated have been utilized for the following, amongst others: water tankering. In this regard, government has purchased 45 18,000-litre water tankers for use in the distribution of water to affected areas. We want to move away from the abuse of this system that is being promoted for tenders and the vandalization of our own infrastructure. In this instance, we are the owners of this particular means to transport water to the areas that are highly affected. There's work that we are doing together with the Department of Science and Technology, the Water Research Commission, and the engineering community on additional borehole drilling, as well as the refurbishment of boreholes, particularly looking at the areas of Limpopo, the northern parts of KwaZulu-Natal, and in particular, the greater part of Ngakamudiri, Mulema in the northwest. The third area is on water conservation and demand management, which is the work that we would have to continue doing in collaboration with the Department of Environmental Affairs that would inform us on the weather conditions. Secondly, giving support and partnering with the Department of Agriculture for the promotion of food security, and most importantly, ensuring that we share this precious resource with the households, working in partnership with local government. We are also in discussion with the Department of Energy on the water supply for energy, as well as energy supply for the availability of water, and hence various other options that we are looking at, the promotion of hydro systems using our existing dams and future dams, so that then we move off the grid, but we are also able to expand the development of our dams and the capacity. We are also looking at the creation of capacity to provide what our own communities are expected to receive from government in terms of their constitutional right, in the form of water banks, where we'll provide the required amount per month for a deserving household, especially the indigent. We will also be working with our local authorities and the Department of Human Settlement and Public Works already on the issues of the change of designs in terms of your system, in terms of water saving in your own bathroom, your toilet, and so forth. In the change of our own construction patterns, things must actually change, and there is work that is underway. Just dropping a block in your system, you'd save 2 liters of water. And we do have some of the samples here, including innovation that comes from some of our young people from the Innovation Center up here in Gauteng, where they've changed the kind of systems that we can use to save water. But in the main, what is important is about behavioral change. The fourth one is around water source augmentations. Yes, we're looking at expanding our relationships in terms of transboundary relations, because we've got shared basins, but we also want to move away from just over-reliance on surface water. Desalination is a reality. Responding and the use of acid mine drainage water is also another reality. Many other options that we'll have to look at, and in the foreseeable future, when we have rain, it will also be about rain harvesting. But as we change our designs, one of the things that we have to look at is to make sure that our properties do have the capacity to harvest rain. And the last one is around recycling. South Africa is actually the least when it comes to using grey water. And we believe this is one of the best and the quickest ways of us being able to augment water availability. Grey water is about cleaning the water that we use in terms of our sanitation processes, the water that is being used in the mining sector, and it being cleaned through our water treatment plants, and hence the interventions that we are now making together with local authorities on how we can modernize our water treatment plants in South Africa so that then nothing is lost. We are able to reharvest that water that is contaminated and use the waste to generate energy. And these are some of the game changers we're beginning to introduce. We will, in the next 2 weeks, see some of our international partners working with us in the coastal provinces on putting mega desalination plants in the country. We are also working very strongly in this regard, Minister Gordon, with our municipalities on being sensitive with regard to contamination of our water systems and our river streams. And hence local government has to come handy in dealing with these issues. The last one is spring rehabilitation. Many of our areas have got springs where water just flows, and already together with the province of KwaZulu-Natal, we have identified 92 springs that we are already rehabilitating in the rural areas of KwaZulu-Natal. That on its own is also providing us with alternative water availability. These are but some of the measures currently being implemented as part of our emergency relief effort that to the affected parts of KwaZulu-Natal. These obviously will be supported by some of our medium to long-term projects in the province and in other provinces to add capacity to our water storage and supply capacity in the future. The way to go is about water storage and making sure that we improve demand management and behavioral change. In the Northwest, fellow South Africans, we have partnered with the provincial government in the Madibeng and Ngakamudirimulema municipalities. An amount of 184.2 million and 147 million respectively has been allocated to intervene in the two municipalities. We have not just given them money, we have gone there with the capacity coming from our water agencies to go in and implement and ensure that the resources allocated are used in the best interest of our own communities. In the province of the Free State, as with the other provinces, we continue to use our existing funding vehicles, such as the Regional Bulk Infrastructure Grant, the Municipal Infrastructure Grant, and the Municipal Water Infrastructure Grant, and lastly, the Water Service Operating Subsidy. Accelerated infrastructure program to support municipalities to increase resilience in water supply. We have also agreed, together with the provincial government of the Free State and the Metropolitan Municipality of Mangaung, to install a pipeline from the Garib Dam to Mangaung. And that pipeline would actually cost us nothing below 2 billion rands, and the studies have been done. We're quite certain that that would also be a game changer. We are in discussion with those that are managing our Lesotho Highlands water project, also to divert some of the water and increase the pumping from Lesotho to both the Free State and to KwaZulu-Natal. So we're increasing the supply of water to South Africa, that it should not only be for Gauteng, but it should also cover those neighboring two provinces. And the study is underway. And in the meantime, we are now putting this huge pipeline that is going to give relief to the Free State. On water use, due to high water demands as a result of drought in some areas and the heat wave in Gauteng, we want to once more urge all of us to use water wisely and sparingly. Our joint efforts have the potential to yield significant water savings that would go a long way in improving the water security of our country. To illustrate the pressures on the system currently for Gauteng in particular, may I actually share the following. One, on water production. Normally, Rand water systems pump 4.664 megaliters per day, as opposed to 4.882 megaliters currently. Secondly, on water demand, The same system has a usual demand from consumers of 4.489 megaliters per day, which is currently now at 4.900 megaliters per day, with the highest recorded recently being 5.008 megaliters per day. But I also want to say, fellow South Africans, the pattern also indicates that it is the northern suburbs, it's not Soweto. And we definitely have to look at that. It's the sprinklers, it's car washing, it's business as usual with many bathtubs and everything that we're doing in the northern suburbs. And hence the impact that happened there. So we need to talk to communities in those areas on how we can deal with these issues and learn from what Tshwane did, working in partnership with the residents of Waterkloof areas, and what KwaZulu-Natal did, working with Yozimbali and Ilembe areas on just scaling down some of the things that we have been doing in terms of using water for comfort. And lastly, ordinarily, the system stores 5.812 megaliters per day. However, current storage is 1.9 megaliters per day based on the pressure explained above on the production and on the demand. We've also taken note of our own challenges that work against our intentions to treat water as a scarce resource and to save it and use it efficiently. Hence, the partnership and closer collaboration with our local authorities and the implementation of the back to basics with regard to dealing with the capacity of municipalities. Where there has to be support, we're providing support. Where there has to be direct intervention and control, we are doing that. We also are waging a war on pollution. Phase 1 started in the Vaal catchment area. The project is managed by an anti-pollution task team under the leadership of what is popularly known as the Blue Scorpions. We're embarking on a media and community awareness program to educate and create awareness. We've got a number of ambassadors that we are working on, and very soon we'll be revealing the names and the profiles of those that are going to be the water ambassadors for South Africa. All wastewater treatment works are currently being subjected to conditional assessments, after which the department will be assisting municipalities. Continuous water quality sampling and monitoring is taking place. In addition to the above, there is also focus on combating pollution in the rivers of South Africa, especially the Vaal River. It is well known that the Vaal supports 40% of the economy of South Africa and 60% of the population of our country. Ensuring that the integrity of the Vaal River is maintained is therefore critical. Hence our close working relationship now with the Mfuleni municipality with regard to the spillages into the river system, as well as the partnership with some of the environmental groups. On one leaks, we have indicated that this is one of the critical interventions that will reduce amounts of water we lose due to the leaks. The mobilization and the capacity that we are creating for the country through the 15,000 young people will also make a significant impact. Business and the public is therefore encouraged to report any leaks on the toll-free number that has been shared, which is 0800 200 and 200. It is our intention to make sure that we are linked with all our critical provinces and strategic municipalities so that then we can reduce the response time and the turnaround time. There is already a disaster management center in KwaZulu-Natal that is meant by everybody. And out of that, we believe that it is a best practice that we can emulate, particularly for the other 4 provinces. I thank you.
Thank you. We actually have just for your benefit, a National Disaster Management Center that connects to all of the provincial and municipal disaster management centers where they actually exist. And we need to, as part of our process, get more cohesion than we have. But we have a facility which can readily be mobilized to actually monitor the whole country as well. Thank you, Mr. Mokonyane. There's a lot of material there for you as members of the media to pick up on. I don't know how many of you know how many liters of water is used to flush a cistern normally. Do we know? And what happens when you drop a brick in there? See, I mean, those are the back to basics, if you like, of this issue. Do we know that one of the things that we're working on is a redesign of toilet systems? So that instead of using the normal 6 to 8 liters, you use maybe 4 liters or so. There's another area that we're working on, boreholes and the use of underground water. One of our municipalities has already done the homework. We have a national map of where underground water is actually available. Pretty soon, if we get our systems right and work with private sector partners, we can tell households in South Africa where they could dig a borehole. We could get a national contract going, which reduces the cost of drilling boreholes as well. So these are initiatives within government which we will communicate sooner rather than later, from which the public will benefit. But the key is to get the partnership element right and to resolve some of the immediate issues and lay the basis for the longer term. I think what you've heard already, ladies and gentlemen, is the connection between energy, water, food, and standard of living and livelihood. So let's go into the area of agriculture and livestock, and first invite Minister Zokwana, who will be followed by Minister Nkwinti.
Thanks. I think as a department we join and the two ministers who have spoken before me to say that climate change is a threat and the drought is on us. And we support Minister Molewa in saying that we need to make sure that we follow up on the daily warnings about the situation in the country, and join Minister Molewa, sorry, Minister Mukonyana, in saying that we can only save, it can only be better if we do that which is right to save water. But as agriculture, we would like to say that as a sector, we're highly affected. We have seen cattle dying. We have seen plants withering. What we don't want to see is people dying. And we have taken precautions as a department to make sure that, as States SA has noted, that our production has contracted by 17% on quarter, largely due to drought conditions in 2015. Since weather forecast and that signify rainfall may only be expected by March 2016, then there's a need to foster agricultural development and food security measures, despite the effects of drought incidents. Slide number 4 will show that as a department we have been able to make sure that this situation has reversed the gains we have made in terms of employment, job creation, economic growth, and
Can
food
an official from agriculture come and just put these slides on, please?
This is taking place today.
If we can turn this thing into a national phenomenon and cut down the prices, then it's a public service.
Sorry, he must come and do it here. There are people in Cape Town.
No. You need to
We
put
want
the
a
show up on the
PowerPoint.
computer.
Cape Town.
We want a PowerPoint. Is a memory stick that we can put here?
There are people in Cape Town who can't get this distribution done.
Yeah. Let the minister continue, but if the staff can help, please.
Thanks. The current drought covers all provinces, some provinces only in part, while others, it affects the whole province. And I'm sure we have been informed of the provinces that have been declared as disaster areas. This agricultural drought results in death of livestock, as I've said, and we have seen pictures on the media, especially in KZN, Northwest and Limpopo. It results, as I've said, that farmers may struggle to service their loans. That is what the problem is, and are affecting their credit worthiness and financial institutions. The risk of loss of income as a consequence of crop failures and may even threaten farm jobs. This drought can only worsen the hunger and poverty problem. The country may face need to import in the grains such as yellow maize and white maize. Slide 5 will show that talking about food security in the SADC region, meaning that it is not only South Africa that's affected, but all of the SADC region. And in South Africa, the situation is as follows. About 14.1 million people of South Africa are still predisposed to hunger and malnutrition, therefore do not have enough food to eat, thereby increasing levels of absolute poverty every year. We need to work hard together and make sure that we work with all the sectors. Slide 6 will show that the drought impact, the grain industry, as I said, contribute about 25% of the agricultural GDP. About 8 million tons of maize are consumed in South Africa, and the rest is exported to SADC. South Africa is the largest maize producer in the Southern African Development Community. There are more than 9,000 commercial as well as 1,000 small-scale subsistence producers. The main maize areas are Northwest, Mpumalanga, Free State, and KwaZulu-Natal Midlands. Impact on drought in urban lands. These two graphs projects, as they will be shown, that the drought have consistently affected and reduced the urban land in South Africa. You can see the first graph that area planted to white maize has been reducing, but also the total area planted to both has reduced from a total of 2.7 million hectares to 2.5. South Africa has declined by somewhat sufficient stock levels of white maize until the end of April 2016. Yellow maize stocks will be very tight and we may need to be supplemented. Key to this is the 2014-15 drought affected availability of white maize, which is a major staple food for many people. The average maize yield has reduced by 5.3 tons per hectare, the lowest yield since 2008. This will affect the price of maize meal and affordable basic staple food, especially by poor and vulnerable. Between July 2014 and July 2015, the cost of basic food basket increased by about 21 rand in normal terms. This is from 502 to 522 rands. This drought and low maize will have an impact on the SADC neighbors. This may become a regional disaster if it persists. What have we been doing? Did we only know about this drought here the last few months when media projected pictures of dead animals or rotting crops? No, we are fully aware, and we have been consciously aware of the climate variety trends and the El Nino alternating with La Nino effects. We are implementing risk reduction measures in line with the disaster risk management sector plan. These include implementing the multi-year program of land care program to reduce felt and soil degradation and water loss. We are promoting conservation agriculture practices to conserve moisture, which means that farmers should not use the irrigation methods they're used for, but also drip systems to prevent water evaporation. Farmers under conservation agriculture find themselves less vulnerable. We're investing 66 million on this program. We're collaborating with the Department of Rural Development and Land Reform on their animal and flood management improvement program. Through the Agricultural Research Council, we have released the drought-tolerant maize variety that has increased tolerance levels by 20%. We have spent 9 million on drilling boreholes to livestock water in the Free State and Northwest. This forms part of our multi-year program of risk reduction. As part of the awareness campaign, we disseminate early warning information and provide appropriate advice to farmers to farm wisely. We need media capabilities, and we believe that as media, as our friends, we must work together to make sure that people are aware of this situation. Through the National Agricultural Marketing Council, we conduct food pricing monitoring. The next report will be released at the launch of on Monday, 16th January, here in Pretoria. We are fully involved in collaboration with Department of Rural Affairs and Science and Technology, and developing and developed and implement climate adaptation plan and program for the sector. provision of 36.5 million by Provincial Department of Agriculture to relieve small-scale and subsistence farmers in affected provinces. The department is providing 226 million through authorizing of the conditional grant to provide livestock feed and water to smallholder farmers to both maintain and reduction of animals. And we can say that since we have met last Monday, Gauteng has supplied 1,800 bags of feed concentrate to 200 farmers. KwaZulu-Natal purchased 2,000 tons of fodder to supply 1,500 in 7 affected districts. Limpopo has distributed 15,000 bags of feed concentrate in 15 depots across the province. We are still collecting the data for Free State and other provinces. We'll make sure that our small-scale farmers are assisted and educated to make sure that they fatten their animals, under which they should be encouraged to sell, but also to manage the size of cattle so that we can manage the felt grazing patterns. Between the Department of Development and our department, we want to assist them with temporary grazing and to feed, to prepare their animals for sale rather than loot, as I have said. We have engaged the ITC and the Land Bank to assist distressed farmers to manage their credit facilities and assist them with soft loans. There is a lot of goodwill to assist following the duration of the disaster in those provinces affected. The department has met and is coordinating departments that include labor, social development, to prepare to come to the aid of those hardest hit, especially rural and farm worker households. Through Ilima Litsima, we want to support the recovery by providing seeds and input when the rains fall. We are coordinating agriculture as existing drought task team to monitor and coordinate the response measures appropriately. This team has been meeting regularly, but now we will increase frequency to support emergency measures. It concludes those provinces and the sector role players. Through NAMAC, the Crop Estimates Committee, working with industry, will continue to monitor the demand and supply of the grains and the food prices and issue early warning as required. We shall continue with the media fraternity as partners to disseminate early warning information to advise on good practice. We expect that the cooperation social responsibility of the media house will be put to good use by joining hands with to promote good food security and mitigate the effects of drought through information. In conclusion, I'm inviting the media houses and corporate world to support the effort of government to bring relief to affected areas. We have met, of course, with the commercial farmers, and already we're working together to find plans we can coordinate. We want to identify areas where there's feed so that we can assist the provinces, so that we don't put this man aside and not it be used. We will make sure that our teams are on the ground. We believe that through this program, we'll make sure that people can go through it. And we believe that as a department, we can cope with the situation if we work in unity. We can do it. We should welcome all criticism that draws attention to people who may be overlooked by our system. We should welcome taking this early warning information to our people that we are in dire situation, and let's apply strict measures in the use of scarce resources. As a department, we're saying that together we'll go through this situation. We believe that our smallholder farmers will be informed of all the centers where this feed is available. Thank you very much.
Again, the emphasis, ladies and gentlemen, on the importance of the agricultural sector, both the big agricultural producers and the smallholder farmers. You have now some data about the kind of fodder support that the department is offering, the money that has been allocated to different provinces, the monitoring that's going to occur in terms of grain production patterns, the possible impact that it might have on prices, and we'll continue to look at how we mitigate the impact of any rise in prices or abuse in the rise of prices, which often happens in these situations as well, in order to defend the interests of the consumer as well. And that is why you'll notice that all the ministers are emphasizing partnerships. We want to do this in a collaborative way. We want to do it in a way in which everybody exercises their individual responsibilities and doesn't try to take advantage of the situation in an inappropriate way. Whether we want to buy a tanker, we want to buy fodder, or we want to look at boreholes, if we all just do our share and do it honestly and make a fair share of the profit, without trying to exploit this particular environment, we would have served our country better. Minister Nkwenti will supplement what Minister Zokwana has been saying from his perspective.
Thank you, Minister. 2 weeks ago in Cape Town, when we were addressing the media, we announced that we sent a team to KwaZulu-Natal at the invitation of MEC Club to identify land to allocate for communal land, for communal land farmers to relocate their livestock to such land. And I said I had given them 48 hours to respond in terms of the availability of that land. I want to report now that in KwaZulu-Natal, we have allocated 62,000 hectares of land for this purpose in the following areas. In Texas Valley, Herigwala District, 14,000 hectares. In Mbendle, Ngungundlovu District Municipality, 20,000 hectares. In Makatini Flats, in Umkanyakude District, we've allocated 8,000 hectares. And the municipality, and the farmers, they are already using this land. And lastly, in Tambanana, Utungulu District Municipality, we've allocated 20,000 hectares. Now, this is under the leadership of the provincial government. I just provided a technical team to support the MEC down in KwaZulu-Natal. Now, most recently, which is the last one, because we are responding to provincial requests on this. In the Northwest, which is very recent, we've already allocated 200,000 hectares there. Now, I am expecting that provincial government, the MEC there, MEC Club here, to disaggregate this, working with our team. She's actually leading the departmental team there, to disaggregate this in terms of where this land, or rather, like they've done in KwaZulu-Natal, in terms of the various districts and municipalities. But you would have noticed that we are targeting communal land. That is where the heaviest or the hardest hit farmers are, in the communal land areas. Part of the challenge with the process, the speed of the process, is that communal land farmers are very reluctant to relocate their livestock. Remember, this has come very, very quick for them, and to say move your livestock, because if they move their livestock, they must make sure that also ourselves, we must make sure there are no losses there. So it's a persuasion process, and we are happy that there's that progress that's been made in KwaZulu-Natal, and I'm sure in the Northwest as well. But lastly, we have a program. We discussed this with our team in the department. We have a program in the department, Animal and Field, which is what was mentioned by MEC Zokwan. Animal and Field Management Program, which is meant to assist communal farmers exactly for purposes like this. It is a program that's looking at rehabilitating the land. It's moving to move livestock, which is overgrazing, to these commercial farms that we buy. We've been struggling, even without the drought. We've been struggling to persuade them to relocate. We see this drought as an opportunity for us. That's why we have ready land available, because it's our program for us. We have set aside this for these 187 million rands. Now, we have a program with the National Agricultural Marketing Council. They are constructing it's been going on. It's not responding to drought, but we're using this drought as an opportunity. They are constructing feedlots for us across the country. Now, particularly in provinces like Northern Cape, Eastern Cape, and KwaZulu-Natal. We're looking at Northwest now coming in so that we can, our idea was that we should have these feedlots because we want to transform the thinking of communal stock or livestock farmers to see this as a commercial, their livestock as commercial assets. So this is a program, we're seeing this as an opportunity that we actually expand this. We have instructed our team that of the 187 million rands that we're making available now as a result of the draft, that a lot of that money, I don't know how much it's going to be, the DG might say, well, I just said to them, you know, about 60 million of that money must go to constructing these feedlots, use this as an opportunity. That's where we are right now, Chair. Thanks very much.
Thank you very much, ministers. I think at this point we'll just take a few questions. We will be able to give you the presentations, the PowerPoint presentations, together with the statement immediately after the briefing. But are there any questions that maybe some members of the media would like clarification on? I can start with Cape Town. Is there any question from Cape Town?
Yes, this is Pumla. We have 4 hands in this round. Paul, you will go first.
Good morning, Ministers. Paul Vecchiato from Bloomberg. First of all, Minister Mokonyane said the Vaal Dam was 84% full, but according to Rand Water's website, the dam is actually at 53.5%, and that number was updated 2 days ago. Sorry, if you could just explain that difference there. Second one is, you made no mention of the acid mine drainage issue. There's that a lot of that water is supposed to be cleaned. Is there any consideration being given to that to help mitigate the water shortage? And then a question on clarity. You said there, the 1 point on 173 water schemes out of more than 1,600 nationwide, servicing 2.7 million households, or 18% of the population. I just want to know, is that the 173 water schemes or the total on the 1,600 water schemes? Thank you.
Thank you, Jan Nibara for the Sunday Times. Just a general point to start off with. I was rather astounded at the way in which we were spoken down to by these ministers, with the exception of Minister Nkwinti, and at the way in which all sorts of temperatures and climate and external aspects were being blamed, and very little responsibility was taken by government. From there, then, the one thing that can be done for commercial farmers is surely to look at guarantees or soft loans. What has government done in that regard? Secondly, the upkeep of infrastructure has been an issue which has been under discussion for many, many years, and which has been glibly denied by many local authorities. What is being done to be stricter on the upkeep of infrastructure from government's side? Then thirdly, you say that these 5 provinces have been declared disaster areas. Have these disaster areas been gazetted? In the fourth place, the Sterkfontein Dam basically consists of water being pumped up from KwaZulu-Natal to service Gauteng. What impact does that have on KwaZulu-Natal? And then finally, Minister Mokonyane, I thought you came close to doing what Minister Gordon said you shouldn't, in politicizing issues by stating that in the Johannesburg Metro the problem lay in the northern suburbs and not in Soweto. Could you give us the relevant figures, please?
Surely.
I think the question has been framed is rather regrettable. Firstly, this journalist accuses us of speaking down to people. We haven't. I haven't, and none of my colleagues have. And I want to just express my strong objection to your choice of words. Secondly, politicizing. We're stating what are facts. We don't want to point fingers at anybody. Whoever has the capacity to reduce the amount of water they're using should use that capacity to reduce the water. And this is an appeal to work, as I said right from the beginning, as one South African team. And looks like the journalist just wants government to admit we did everything wrong. In the process, he's actually politicizing this exchange, which is about facts. It's about what's going on in the country. And it's not about just pointing fingers and blaming people, but asking all of us to cooperate in order that we solve the problems that we have. But we'll come back to the questions.
Thanks, Minister. I think I took 2 journalists. I don't know whether you want us to take all the journalists from Cape Town so that we can finish with Cape Town.
Yes, yes, let's take all of them and then we finish.
Jolien van Wyk, Landbou Weekblad magazine. I want to find out how much of the drought relief in KwaZulu-Natal, that 96.6 million, will be going to farmers. As initially that 300 and something million, the farmers weren't included in that. And then also on what my colleague Jan said on the gazetting issue, I understand that KwaZulu-Natal needs to declare again the drought, because initially the farmers wasn't included, the farming drought, and also that it needs to be re-gazetted. And then my last question, especially now with the dams in the major crop areas being very low, how close are we to a total shutdown or putting restrictions on the irrigation schemes? Thank you.
Makubane, the last one.
Thank you, colleague Makubane from Business Day. First of all, just wanted to ask Minister Mogonyane about if there's a figure on how much water is needed to replenish the most troubled provinces, just a figure on that. And then secondly, from Minister Zogwana on clarity in the 17% quarter-on-quarter contraction, which was mentioned, and what the figures are there. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sis Pumla. Back to you.
Thank you. Over to you, Minister.
To ask Mr. Terry, the head of the Disaster Management Center, in a moment to explain the gazetting story so that we can clear that up for you. Minister?
Thank you very much, Minister, and thanks for the questions. The Vaal River, just to explain, the 80% relates to the Vaal River system, of which the Vaal Dam is one of the dams in the system. That is what we referred to. Secondly, the Sterkfontein Dam has a capacity of 2,616 million cubic meters. We transfer a maximum of 600 million per annum. In the current hydrological cycle, we have transferred 300 million cubic meters. This is what is now the situation. The other issue, I did refer to the acid mine drainage. As we speak now, we have 3, the Central Basin, the Western Basin, and the Eastern Basin. That is one, the Eastern Basin is under construction. We have moved beyond the short-term, the emergency interventions. We are now ready with the implementation. We are in discussion with National Treasury on the funding model, but together with TCTA, which is one of the agencies, and the consultation with Randwater, we are now looking at the long term, which is something that we have committed to do, so that then we can be in a position to deal with the water demands, both for Gauteng as well as for household as well as for industry in Gauteng. I would ask Trevor Balza to talk on the water that is needed to replenish. As I've said, what we have in terms of our own water infrastructure systems. We do have sufficient water. What is a problem is the pumping to the end user, the reticulation, because of the high heat that we are now faced with. But with your permission, I would get Trevor to give the detail in that regard. The issues around the schemes, my comment was very clear. What I want to raise is that the drought currently affects the 173 of the 1,628 water supply schemes of South Africa. So those are the ones that are highly affected, and hence the issue of storage that is being emphasized, that we now have to harvest the water from these other schemes and transfer the water to those areas where there's high need, and that can only be done through the water storage systems, the water tankering system. But the storage, the development of storage capacity is much better than water tankering, because there's minimal water loss when you create water storage. There's innovation that we are now looking at in terms of the emergency pipes that we can also put just to move water from one side to the other, and that is what is being considered to deal with the augmentation as we see now in some of the parts of KwaZulu-Natal. The resources that have been provided were the resources that help in terms of water security in the province of KwaZulu-Natal. Minister Zokwana and Minister Nkwinti have spoken about the interventions that have been put with regard to relief to farmers. We were looking at the issues of augmenting water infrastructure and water security and dealing with demand management. So the resources that one was referring to had gone towards that, and in return, farmers become also beneficiaries. As I've said, that we will have a multi-disciplinary team that is working in this regard. Thank you.
Yes, Minister.
Thank you very much, Paula. If I may, just very briefly, I just want to touch on the question asked by Landbou Weekblad. How much would be allocated as drought relief to go into farmers? Minister Zokwane will touch on that one, but I just thought that as South Africans, we also need to look at this support to farmers in another way as well, because there's another expenditure that's being incurred on support to farmers. This whole program on working on fire, you know that farmers in situations like El Nino, where we are right now, are also continuously experiencing veld fires on an ongoing basis. Just this year, for instance, we anticipate that we will have to fight fires that are close to about 3,000. And there has been a budget allocated in that regard. By the way, it's budget supporting farmers, both small and commercial, allocated 528 million rand just in this financial year. So that should be seen as support to farmers as well. There's money allocated also to farmers in dealing with working on land. There's two amounts, 93 million rand for ecosystems, in other words, ensuring that the farming community does not continue to experience problems in relation to shortage of water, in relation to all those issues. So there's 93 million rand allocated and budgeted for, by the way, that money is here for 2015-2016 on the working on ecosystem, and for working on land from our side, it's 27 million rand that's been allocated. I can go on and on, but also the working on fire has got almost 1.3 billion rand allocated for this program to assist and support our farmers. All these are supporting the ecosystems, and in particular, the farming community. So there's 1.3 billion rand, there's 528 million rand, there's 93 million rand and 27 million rand, there's 111 million rand for working for wetlands. That's over and above that which is allocated to farming community to support them as direct grant as opposed to direct grant that goes through agriculture. Thank you.
Okay, I'm just going to ask Mr. Bowser to come in first, and then
and add to the response already given by Minister Mokonyane to the questions. When we talk of augmenting the systems, particularly in a drought period, we're taking water from those dams which have reasonable supply in them to some dams which are dangerously low. If I first just refer to the Vaal River system, which Minister Mokonyane has already touched on with regard to transfers from the Upper Tugela, the Vaal River system, by nature of the system, takes quite a number of years to respond, even after we've had a wet season. So we annually, starting in May of the year, assess the system capacity. We take into account whether we have a hydrological or a meteorological drought.
you speak. Please speak simple English.
Oh. Okay. Thanks, Minister. I do apologize for that. So what we do at the start of the hydrological season, we've got a number of tools we use.
What is the hydrological?
The hydrological season, sorry, I thought everyone had heard that because Minister had mentioned that. The hydrological season is from 1st of October to the end of September every year. So typically for the Vaal River system, in May of this year, and that would be at the end, once the full system has received the water from the summer rainfall, we would then do a system analysis to determine, on the basis of having drought conditions, what the soil moisture contents are, what the precipitation indexes are, and looking at our records backwards, and it could be 40, 50 years of records, we would then run a model to see, on the worst case scenario, how do we manage the Vaal River system. And on the basis of that analysis we did this year, and Minister Mokonyane announced it at the press conference on the 1st of November, is that we don't anticipate that from the Vaal River system we would need to consider any significant restrictions before 2019. In order to reach that projected date, we, however, had to transfer, at the start of this hydrological season, 300 million cubic meters from the Upper Tugela system. And we move that through a number of dams up until we get to the Kilburn Dam, where we then use Eskom to help us to move the water over the mountain into the Sterkfontein Dam. So in effect, the Sterkfontein Dam, which is larger than the Vaal Dam, we keep it as our bank. And the reason that we keep it up there is that the evaporation losses from the Sterkfontein are much lower than the Vaal Dam. Vaal Dam's got a very wide, big surface area, very shallow dam, so the evaporation is very high. And that's why if you look at the weekly dam levels, you'll see that the Vaal Dam drops, well, it might look like it drops quite significantly week on week. What about the other transfers that we've done? Minister touched on the issue of the Hazelmere Dam, and the Hazelmere Dam. What we've done there is we've been transferring 8 megalitres of water. That's 8 million litres of 8 megalitres. 8 million litres of water a day from the Tongati River into the Hazelmere to stabilize the flow, to keep it above 25%. And if we look at the box plots or the statistical analysis of our drawdown over the last couple of months from Hazelmere, we've managed to maintain that level because of our transfers and also because the introduction of 30% mandatory restrictions on the northern areas of eThekwini. We're going to have to review that in the coming week because the Tongati River is drying up somewhat. So we will review that, and there might be a need to increase the level of restrictions. Likewise, on the sorry, I've lost the slide now. On the Hluhluwe, and no, the, where am I? On the Goedetraal Dam, we've also done some transfers into the Goedetraal Dam, but we look at the tracking there, and because of the reduction in water made available or being used by the for farming activities, we see that we've stabilized the level of that dam as well. Now, Minister's colleagues, I could go on and touch on all of the other dams where we have interventions in place, but I've just used those three as an example to indicate the actions taken under the leadership of the Minister by the Department of Water and Sanitation in terms of managing our reservoirs in the country, of which there are 260 odd major reservoirs. Sorry, interchangeably we use the term reservoir and dam. When I talk of a reservoir, a major reservoir, some people would term that a dam. So we manage those dams across the country. Someone might also ask about, what about the Western Cape? The Western Cape being a summer rainfall season, we do that assessment in the Western Cape in November. So next week we will do the assessment of the Western Cape to see what type of restrictions might have to be applied there. Western Cape.
Winter rainfall season.
Winter rainfall. What did I call it?
Summer.
Sorry, my apologies. Summer rainfall area. I'm wishing for winter already. So in the winter rainfall area, we do that assessment in November. And typically for the Western Cape, we would look at a real serious event of around 2 to 3 years, as opposed to the 8 years which we'd use in the Vaal. Because in the winter rainfall area, those dams have a much quicker recovery period. They rise and they fall in a quicker period of time. But that, ministers and colleagues, we'll come out with those numbers once we've done the assessment in November, and there might be a need, looking at the current levels, just in looking at historical information, there might indeed be a need for some restrictions in the Western Cape. Thanks.
Mr. Terry.
Thank you, Minister. Just confirmation that of the provinces that have declared disasters, the 4 provinces, KZN, Northwest...
The question is about gazetting.
Yeah. The 4 provinces, KZN, Northwest, Free State and Limpopo, have in fact gazetted. The only one that has declared a disaster by the Cabinet of Mpumalanga, but the process of gazetting will be finalized in next week.
And the question was, did KZN need to re-gazette?
Minister, the information that we had received from KZN, they are busy with the process of reclassification, which would lead to gazette, but they haven't finalized that process yet.
Okay, so the question was an accurate one. Mr. Sokona, guarantees and soft loans?
Thanks, Chairperson. Maybe it's because there was no slide showing. I have said that we have met with the banks, and we have met with IDC and Land Bank, and the report we have got from the commercial farmers through the president of Agri-SA is that they are happy with the work we are doing in trying to create a dialogue in which soft loans can be given to farmers for the loss they have made. And I concur with Minister Molewa to say, beyond what we are doing now in the current scenario, there's a lot of money that the government is spending in assisting farmers. So I believe that there will be a meeting very soon. Understand that SA and the DG of Agriculture, they've been in constant discussion, because we want them to quantify what has been the extent of loss, but we know very well that grains have been affected. On the issue of 17% quarter-on-quarter loss, contraction. These are the figures we got from Stats SA. But as a department, we can confirm that the area or total area that has been planted has decreased from 2.7 million hectares to 2.5 in 2015 due to the effect of drought. As I said, that we may be compelled at some point to look at other measures to augment our shortages.
Okay, finally, let me address the question of infrastructure. And here, we've been doing a number of things. So there are parts of South Africa where municipal infrastructure is 30, 40, 50 years old. And some municipalities do have programs and funds in order to refurbish that old infrastructure. And yet in other places, more assistance is actually required. Secondly, there is, in some parts, neglect of infrastructure. So the focus is on putting in new infrastructure as opposed to operating and maintaining the current infrastructure properly. Now, in response to these things, several things are being done. Firstly, we're encouraging municipalities to set aside between 7 and 8% of their operational budget for maintenance purposes. Secondly, we're looking at ways of bulk, let's call it bulk and efficient implementation of municipal infrastructure. Thirdly, we're looking at finding a way of leveraging the municipal infrastructure grant with other funding from outside of government, so bigger projects can in fact be managed and managed quicker than they currently would be. A lot of our emphasis with municipalities is now going to shift to, are you operating your infrastructure properly? Do you have the right skills to operate your infrastructure properly? And are you undertaking the necessary maintenance? So we'll be going out together with our colleagues from Water and Sanitation and ensuring that we undertake on-the-ground inspections to see what is actually going on. The next important point which we achieved yesterday is with the metros, and I've invited Mayor Tau as a representative of the mayors to just say a few words in a moment, is to, at least in the Gauteng region, get what we call operational cohesion through the establishment of a joint center, strengthening the capabilities that we already have. They will be meeting virtually every morning to establish what's going on, what needs to change. And I think if you are listening to Mr. Bowser carefully, the water system in South Africa, and I'm learning myself, is a very dynamic system. It's a system where you can, in most parts of the country, shift water around. In most parts of a city, you can move water around in order to supplement those areas that might have difficulty in accessing water in the normal kind of way. As Mayor Tau will explain to you, in parts of our topography, higher lying areas have greater difficulties because of pressure-related problems. But those are all the issues that we've asked our operations team to begin to look at on a daily basis now. The second point is that we want municipalities to provide, as I said earlier on, clear schedules to the public in the event that there's going to be any either shortage of supply or lack of supply to businesses and to households as well. Secondly, we are saying that, and I'm sure we are all going to agree, that the demand side is the key in many of our environments, and a lot more needs to be done to raise our collective consciousness, for every South African to ask, what is it that I can contribute? And on one of the radio shows yesterday, I said that businesses should give prizes for innovative ideas so that we can create some excitement around this. Illegal connections is also a problem. And that's why the Minister of Water and Sanitation has launched the War on Leaks program. The last point is you'll get a copy of a letter that has been sent to every mayor last night. And in this letter, we are actually asking them to pay focused attention to the issue of drought and water shortage. And they are being asked, what is the extent of drought or water supply problem in your area? Report to us in 1 week. Water leaks is part of the War on Water Leaks program, fixed within hours and through a concerted program. In other words, many of your radio stations and so on are hearing, I'm seeing water leaking for 10 hours or 2 days or 3 days. And we are going to put a lot of pressure on our municipalities to react a lot more quickly to avoid these sorts of problems. Is old infrastructure being refurbished? Is the public being kept informed? And what are the extraordinary measures being taken to mitigate some of the risks? You'll see the rest of this when you actually get the letter. We're back to you, ma'am.
Thank you. Mayor, do you want to say a few words?
Thank you. Thank you very much, Minister. Just a few comments. Safe to say that we've agreed amongst the metros, in particular in Gauteng and Rand Water, to initiate a process where we can assist Rand Water in particular to at least reach equilibrium between water demand and supply in the first instance, and secondly, to be able to increase its storage of water, because that's important for us to be able to guarantee reliability of supply into the medium term. And we've given ourselves the following week to ensure that we introduce additional measures together with our communities so that we're able to reach that level where we can say that at least production and supply is matched with actual demand in the first instance, and then we're able to increase the capacity, at least from the supplier's point of view, to be able to store water. And for us, that's an important thing, because we've taken a view that we have a collective responsibility to the entire supply area of Gauteng in relation to the extent that Rand Water becomes the primary source of supply into the system. So we need to be able to manage the water system as a collective as opposed to individual municipalities and its supplier, so to say. The second point, Minister, I thought would be important to make relates to emphasizing a point that we raised yesterday. 46% of the water supplied to domestic users is currently going towards gardening, particularly in a season where we're experiencing a heat wave and lack of rain. We have to encourage people to change behavior so that we're able to reduce that 46%. Because if we can reduce that 46% by half, in fact, this problem in the Gauteng area would disappear. But the reality is that we have to now find ways. We've been encouraging people to change the way in which they engage with their gardens. We might have to induce some of that behavioral change, but at the starting point, we think that it is about forming a partnership and a bond with our communities that says, can we reduce the amount of water that goes into gardening so that we can be able to replenish the situation and guarantee supply into the medium term. And for us, that's an important thing to continuously emphasize. And we would want to get to a point where we would be able to call on people and say, can we reduce our gardening? And we don't have to police it, or we don't have to throttle the system, or we don't have to reduce pressure or cut off the system. That would be the ideal. And that's what we've been working with our communities on. But the reality is that depending on how the system behaves over the next few days, there are different decisions that we'd have to make to enable us to be able to recover. But our emphasis is we will be working with our communities to be able to reach a point of reliability. The last point, Minister, relates to the point that was raised earlier, and I think Minister Mokonyane touched on it, about the possibility of utilizing acid mine water, cleaning acid mine water to become potable water. Now, we've completed a test in Johannesburg through our Sedna laboratories with a potential technology that can enable us to do that. We are happy with the results. We now need to provide the results to the minister, and on the basis of those results, then engage with the sources of where the acid mine water would be generated from. And from there, we'd be able to make the necessary pronouncements. So the results themselves are not the end of the situation. The people of Joburg would know that we've continuously said that we're testing the situation, we're testing a technology, we've completed that, but we now need to go through due processes to be able to make pronouncements about the future of utilizing acid mine water. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mayor. I think we'll only take one or two here in Pretoria, if there is any. I think we've had quite an extensive briefing from the ministers. And of course, this is not the last one. They will regularly brief as we go along. So is there any question? Yes.
Good day, everyone. My name is Johnny Sai Maromo. I'm with African News Agency in Pretoria. Just want to ask Minister Mokonyane, please. There are attempts to stop the leakages in municipalities, but do you have a figure or a percentage, so to speak, about the amount of water which is lost due to the leakages as of now? Thank you so much.
Ntando Makubu from the Pretoria News. My question is not so, not based so much on what has been said. It's more of a social issue. There is a summer extravaganza that is coming into the country, starting in Cape Town next month, called Slide the City. Each event of 15 events that are going to happen up until February are going to use about 40,000 liters of water per day. Now, the company that is bringing it says that water is for it will be recycled. On the other hand, you've got people that are saying, why should it happen in a situation where there's drought and water shortages? What is the feeling of the task team about this? The city of Tshwane has indicated that they will pull out, or they could pull out, if it's not in the interest of the city. What's the situation? How does the task team look at this extravaganza?
There was one in front, just the second row. Okay. And above. Yes.
Leboga Mokoena from the Business Day TV. Minister, you touched briefly on it, but it's regarding leakages. Do you have perhaps any figures on the hotline where we can report these leaks? Currently, how many of those reports are coming in and are being addressed?
Teresa Taylor from eNCA. Minister Molewa, obviously you talked about the various climate predictions, long and short term, that your team is doing. You said that El Nino is going to probably affect us throughout the summer, but is there any prediction in terms of how long this drought will last? My understanding is it's not only the El Nino that is causing it. What are the latest figures that your team has?
I'm Leanne George from Network 24, Media 24. For Minister Mokonyane, we understand that Rand Water has reached its capacity for supplying the Tshwane Metro with water from the Vaal River system, and that opposition parties in the Tshwane Metro say they'll only be able to get more water in 2023 once the Lesotho Highlands Scheme's second phase or next phase has been finished. Please comment on this. Thank you.
Those are the only questions, and we then close. It's over to you, ministers. Ministers?
Let the Rand Water CEO answer the last question. Is he here?
Okay, thanks for the opportunity. I think it's important to understand that under normal circumstances, we don't have a problem in terms of supply in Tshwane. But the important thing here is the system design in terms of how our hydraulic system works. We first start from the same system, supply Joburg, and then from there part of it goes to Ekurhuleni and as well to the city of Tshwane. Now the important thing now with what has been said by the ministers is the amount of water as well that goes first to Johannesburg, city of Johannesburg, before it moves on the same system to the city of Tshwane. So the current problem, and I think what has been suggested by the ministers, will actually go a long way in terms of system stabilization, and if we can do that, then we won't have a problem. What needs to be understood is the figure that you are referring to, it's actually based on this next phase in terms of documentation. But as Renota itself, we have plans that by March next year, which we are trying to actually pull up to end of January, based on the current crisis. We're looking at putting an extra 200 megaliters in the system, and early 2017 we will be doing the first system in terms of our own operations, looking at an extra 300 megaliters, and I think about 9 months down the line another 300 megaliters. So in the main, we think by 2018 we should have an extra 1,000 megaliters capacity over and above what we have. But the important thing here to stress is the current issues relate to the current demand that is more than supply. But under normal circumstances, on average, we have more than enough if you look at our production capacity plus storage. Hence the information that what the minister has been saying has been around how do we ensure that we can limit to normal production. But looking at it long term, it's quite important, as the mayor was saying now, to at some point, unless we are able to stabilize the system, take very serious decisions, that would still mean normally the amount of water available in the system should be able to cater for everybody. It's just how we use it, and whether now in terms of the other questions we are able to deal with that we lose based on best pipes and all that. So that combination will actually make sure that we can get through this this situation. Thank you.
Minister Mokonyane.
Yeah. With regard to the water leaks, that include also illegal connections. We're losing almost 7 billion rands worth of water, and that's what we are now working together with all our municipalities to put together a South African water infrastructure maintenance plan. We are laying new pipelines in eThekwini to deal with these interventions. We are removing asbestos pipes to deal with these situations. We have made drastic interventions in the area of Madibeng, where there was also vandalism that was going through. And we are also giving support where municipalities have as yet to develop capacity by us providing through our water boards the needed capacity to deal with this situation. The summer slide extravaganza, we have to make choices as a country. I know that there's been discussions with the regional office in the Western Cape, but there's also discussions here with us in the Department of Sports. Yes, we must use water for recreation, but we have to make hard choices. The issue of using recycled water, for that would also be one of the things that we definitely have to look at. But if there's going to be a demand for surface water that can be used for domestic consumption, that is why the city of Tshwane is quite reluctant, because that was the source that the extravaganza was depending on. But we're quite sure that we may find one another, and there has to be adaptation under such conditions. Thank you.
Thank you very much for the question. The issue really about the El Nino period, as I said earlier on, that we have a unit in SOURCE that deals with these predictions. We have a short term and the long term, and the long term one is being done on the basis of about up to 6 months. So it is for that reason that we say, for now, we are aware and we know that up until the beginning of the end of summer, at least now we know that up until the end of summer. So going forward beyond that period, there will be further predictions which extend over another 6 months period. So for now, we're not able to say what will July be like, what will be there. So we don't quite have those figures, but we'll have them as month to month as we extend into that period. There's also, by the way, other influences that are causing this El Nino. As you know, we're doing predictions on the warming of the oceans, the winds that are blowing in the oceans, various kinds of variables that are being considered by these teams that deals with these predictions. So it's also not a given that at any given time there will be just a standing kind of a normal, what we're predicting today would be subjected to those variables as well on an ongoing basis. What we also have been told by this prediction team is that sometimes, but by the way, this doesn't mean that there won't be rain completely. There will continue to be rain sporadic here and there, especially on the eastern parts of our province, of our country, areas of KwaZulu-Natal, Minister. It may not quite be adequate, but there will continue to be those sporadic rains, sometimes even thunder. Because after such a rain, we do expect that there will be the thunderstorms. And this is the reason why, Minister, we yesterday gathered quite a lot of scientists also in one house to look at lightning effects, because we do know that we are actually the highest country with the number of deaths from lightning. Having said that, I also want to say that this then brings in play the international scenario. Why we are sitting at the world level negotiating very hard to get responses by the world on climate change impacts is because of this particular matter. Because if we don't do anything at that level of reducing the carbon emissions, we are likely to get this El Nino and situation going on and on and on, because it's actually exacerbated more by climate change conditions. So at international level, we are saying this year around in November, December, we must get that world agreement that actually requires every one of us as a world, every party, to act on carbon emission reduction. It's not only South Africa that will act. We cannot make an impact if we act alone or few countries act alone, but we have to all act. And that agreement is very, very important. Although it's going to be implemented just after 2020, it's important to get it in place so that we are readying ourselves. Right now, you know, we have actually submitted 159 countries willingly submitted our intended nationally determined contributions. Those are actions which we will have to implement. So 159 countries of 94 countries of the world have submitted. Quite enormous. They are saying they will act. So we'll then have to allocate that, which are, by the way, are bringing us just at about 2.7 degrees Celsius, which is still not required. We require below 2 degrees for the world to actually have to experience these lesser impacts as we are. Thank you.
So in conclusion, what you are hearing is that we have to have a 6-month window in mind, but in terms of the global picture, there are wider sets of issues like the ones the Minister has mentioned that we need to take into account. Secondly, we re-emphasize that we want to partner with all sectors in South Africa, work as a South Africa team to tackle the immediate issues, but also start encouraging all of us to make the personal adaptations, business adaptations, technology adaptations that will enable us to save water on the one hand, but also find new sources of water as well. Much of this, as possible, must happen through persuasion amongst us and a higher level of awareness of some of the issues that we are confronted with. At the same time, we will be working with the municipalities to make sure that they have appropriate bylaws in place, that those bylaws are well advertised amongst the public, and then where appropriate, they must be implemented as well. Thank you very much for your patience on behalf of all of us. Thanks to the
Thank you,
GCIS colleagues
Ministers.
as well.
We've come to the end of the briefing. Thank you.
Thank you, colleagues. That's good teamwork.
I think it's because even if there's this climate change issue raised, we should do more research and find other cultivars that even crops that will grow once they raised.
On your plan,
Yeah, use it in your house.
I saw this there's another one at what is this university?
Can all of you look at this brick? Take a brick with you for your toilet system.